Aloha gang, what's up? This is John coming at you from Cowboy Motors, and today I'm inside. It's not the best weather. It's kind of gloomy out there, so I kind of wanted to show you this video first off before I get this bike dirty. You know, I mean, I've been putting a lot of work into this Escape R hybrid that I like to call, and you know, with all the mods that I've been doing lately, the bike has kind of gotten, I mean, way different. Better in some cases, not as good in some cases. I mean, mostly due to weight, but all in all, it's still a great bike. It's just a little bit heavier. But with the suspension upgrades, with the drivetrain upgrades, this bike should be a good contender for me, or a good fit for me, and hopefully a good contender in the upcoming race. And there's a few things that we've done to mitigate some of the range issues, and as well as some of the things for the performance issues. Now, before I get this thing going, I just want to give you a quick rundown that, you know, these mods aren't factory mods. I just want to make that clear. This is my own rendition. This is my choice to take what I think is a great platform and just kind of add on to it to suit my style of riding and what I needed to do in the terrain that I have, which is here in Hawaii. So with that being said, let's do an overview of all the mods. And actually, I would like to say the most modded Escape R in the world, and coming from a little tiny island in the chain of Hawaii. And before we set off for the video, thank you once again. Please like and subscribe to this channel if you like the content, if you want to learn more about not just electric motions but other bikes out there on the market. We have a few reviews going on, and we also have a few things that are upcoming for the future. So it's a very exciting time for us at Cowboy Motors. Please like and subscribe. And with that being said, let's get into the video. Aloha. Right on, guys. So thank you again for joining us. And like I said, the weather hasn't been that great for filming, especially for like a review video. So I apologize, but this is the my humble garage that you're seeing. And yeah, it's a bit messy, but you know, we're getting stuff done here. We're getting stuff done. So as I said before, this is the most modded Escape R in the world right now. I don't think anybody has done what I've done to this bike as far as the whole scheme of what you can do to an Escape R. And you know what? If I'm wrong, I want to see it. You know, like, let's see what's out there. Let's see what you guys have envisioned for this bike, and you know, like what you've turned it into. Now, we know it's a trials platform, and you know, people have somewhat thought that a trials bike is very limited in what it can do. And obviously, you know, I'm not going to lie and say it's not. It is. We understand suspension, travel, ride height, size, weight, power, all those things come into factor. But we're going to go from the top down, and we're going to talk about everything that we did to make this bike what we think, or what I think, is a great bike for enduro riding. I want to say hard enduro riding. And, you know, here in Hawaii, which we have good conditions, you know, a lot of different kind of conditions, unique conditions. And, you know, it just really suits for the tight trails that we have here. So let's get that started. Let's not waste any more time, and let's get that started right here. So first off, on our controls, from a previous video, I've talked about I went with the enduro style Pro Taper bars. And over the time of riding it, I did realize that I like the trials bars better. They're not as high of a bend, and the sweep is more straight. There's less sweep than a motocross style handlebar, which you probably have seen in my previous videos. So I went back to the S3 Buffalo bars, anodized blue, which just, you know, give it a little bit nicer pop to the bike. these bars have been great, and I've gotten used to them. I did cut them down to about, I think they're like 31.5 inches for the bars as far as the width. So I did cut them down for our Hawaii trails. As you may know, trials handlebars are very wide because you want that leverage and you want that control, and you're not normally, weaving through a lot of trees normally. So again, suited my S3 bars for Hawaii trails, and then connected to that I have a pair of Zeta handguards. Now, no particular reason why the Zeta ones, I just like the look pretty much. It looks, there's a lot of edges, kind of looks like a lightning bolt. They got some lightning bolt designs on it, but they've done very well. I mean, they have a padded guard on the side, so it protects, the actual aluminum, which is great. They do mount up straight to the bar risers, which is very solid for me. You've seen my videos, I tend to crash a lot. And yeah, I just like the feel and the look. These come out of Japan, the Zeta brand, if you're not familiar with it. I believe it's like a sister company with Sycra. So the quality is good, and the looks to me are definitely good as well. I went with, this is not the normal EM label plate. This is actually a mountain bike plate, and I believe it's just a real generic design. And it's kind of cool. I seen it, first guy I seen this with was Tucker from Electric Cycle Rider. He showed up to the TKO 2022 with this plate, and I thought, oh, that's kind of cool. And when I do races or whatever, I like to keep my sticker and just mount it on the wall as like a token for a memory. So this is good. It's cheap. It's like $20. And if I race, I'll use it and I'll hang it on the wall. I'll put another one on. And yeah, that's that. It's pretty good. For grips, I went with ODI grips. These are like an enduro grip, and I did have to lock wire them. Coming up, we have a IRC Enduro Fest, and if you've seen my last videos, it's been raining a lot. So definitely need to lock wire these grips on for that race, or else you're gonna have a double throttle situation, and you don't want to have that when you're dying in the valleys and in the rocks. It's gonna really suck. So ODI grips work really good. I like these. They're a little bit fatter than the typical trials grips, a little bit more comfortable, and of course, again, with all the mud and everything, it's kind of a deeper groove, so we'll still get some traction on our hands when we go and do those races. Now, this, very important, shout out to my boy Ross, Fashion Rider. You can check out his YouTube channel as well. This guy is an awesome machinist slash CAD designer, and he designed this 3D printed battery meter for me. And this is something I just got off of Amazon. I set it up for a 14S battery, which we have, but this allows me to not only have a better, like a button feel, as opposed to the OEM one when everybody's killing the button and trying to get it to work and it doesn't quite have the quality. This one is a nice button, shows me my percentage, and it also shows me my voltage, which I'll get into a little later why I think that's so important. Over the time of me doing, riding and building batteries and all this stuff, the voltage is actually a lot more accurate. It's harder to think about when you're trying to calculate range, but it's a lot more accurate to what percentage your battery is at. This is just general. So I have an on, off, and I can make it sleep if I want to, which is great. I don't have to worry about trying to get that button to show up once in a while when I need to, especially in a race. Yeah. If you're looking at why do I have two levers here, I've shown this in the past video, but this is basically what I've done as far as my regen. Now, typically with the 2023, your regen button is here, which comes with the bike. This is a 2023 Escape R again. I've actually opted out of the PRBR, which mounts to the top of the lever here and gives me a button here. I didn't like going downhill that I had to take my finger off and go up here. So what I did was I bought the original OEM Electric Motion PRB lever, and I've run that in the same slot that my FRB or fixed regenerative brake button would have been. So now it's a little bit low. I get it. The clutch is a little bit high. I also understand that. But honestly, let's be honest, I don't use the clutch all that much, and not as much as I use my progressive regen brake. Now this, you've seen in the past, works well for keeping traction down muddy, steep, slippery stuff. So I like the regen property, and I like the position of it. It's a little bit low, but that's okay, because when I really need it going downhill, you know, it's a big help for keeping in control. Yeah. Not only that, as part of our fork mod, like I've mentioned before, we have a front formula brake, which is mounted to a rear mounted 4-piston caliper down here. And we haven't changed our original disc from Galfer, our floating rotor. It's the same rotor, but we have modified that. This came with our fork kit. This is awesome. I don't know if it's the position or if it's the size of the piston in the master cylinder or whatever it is, but this formula brake works a lot better for trail riding for this bike. The original Brake Tech front caliper was amazing, but it was very, very twitchy. So if you're trying to just trim some speed here and there, it gets a little tough to control in comparison to this. Now, the only downfall is that you see that the caliper is mounted on the back end like a traditional dirt bike, and that does set its own challenges as far as being guarded up and whatnot. But we're working on something to protect this a little bit more, but that's yet to come. So we have more videos to make for you guys. And before we get down, I'd like to say big shout out to my friend Travis. This guy came down from New York, and he actually asked to ride with us. He had a free day, and he is into that whole 3D printing, 3D designing thing. And what he printed out for us when he brought it down and we got to try it was this big bulky thing here. I mean, it looks big and bulky, but it snaps right in. This is a 3D printed steering stop. Now, you ask yourself, like, why do I need a steering stop for a trials bike? Like, don't you want that, big turn radius? And the answer is, yeah, for trials, you really want that turn radius. Now, for enduro, you kind of don't want that big turn radius. I mean, it does help sometimes, but a lot of times what happens is it actually hinders you, because if you get into a rock situation and the bar turns so much, I mean, too much. I'm actually turning I want to say 3/4 of an inch less in my radius. Like, if it goes more than this will definitely send you over the bars. And I've had that happen to me many times. If you're going downhill, if something catches it and the root catches it and it twists so much and it doesn't lock out at this point, you can go over the bar. This allows you to lock out a little bit earlier. You don't get as much turning radius, but you actually get a little bit more stability if in case you do lock out, the wheel is straight enough that it can recover itself and roll forward, correct itself. Whereas if it went past, you would definitely get into a situation where this would come out into you. You might get stuck in the bar, and you may also go over the bar. So big shout out to my friend Travis, who designed this. Maybe there's a little tweaking, but this thing is so cool. If you want to contact him, he is in the Facebook group for Electric Motions, and I'm sure he can get one out for you if you pay him enough. So big shout out to that. Moving down, we have a S3 hard pull strap here, and this is for those times when we get stuck in the mountains and we need a little help and assistance from our friends. Instead of grabbing the forks here, we can grab this strap and yank them out. I think this might come in handy. Hopefully I don't need any help, but if I do in the upcoming race, at least I will have a little bit of support to grab onto, and we'll help each other out, get through this tough race. I think it's going to be crazy. This is not part of our fork conversion, but we opted into this. This is a YZ 1985 front fender. Now, again, why the YZ one? Nothing in particular. I just thought it looked cool with its sharp angles, kind of matched the Zeta profile. You know, it looked kind of neat. We put an EM sticker on it. We're representing electric motion, of course, on this thing. And this ties into what I've been talking about for the last couple videos. This is our tech fork conversion. Now, if it looks a little bit different to you, the reason is I actually took some regular, this is like a heat shrink. This is like a rubberized heat shrink. I bought this from Amazon. I believe it's 3.5 inches in diameter. And that was just big enough to fit over the fork. And I was able to heat it up, just lightly heat it up. You don't want to make it too hot, of course. And it, number one, protects our fork from any nicks and damages. It's gonna get bust up, but that's okay. We can replace it. It's relatively cheap. And also it blacks it out without having to paint the fork. It makes it look a little bit cooler. You know, I mean, the gold is cool, but I personally like the black look. Looks a little bit more like an X now, doesn't it? So yeah, I mean, I've liked it. This is our Polysport guards that came with our kit, of course, to fit up to these new forks, and put some EM stickers on it just for representation, of course. This is makes it look great. I like the black. I was thinking about going blue, but the YZ blue and the electric motion blue at the time was a little bit different, so I figure black is a-okay. Yeah. Like I mentioned, stock rotor, nothing changed. Stock hub, and that's the great thing about our fork kit is that it works with the stock rotor and hub, and we just have a heavy duty spindle that comes with the kit and mounts everything together. For the front, I did go with a Kenda Ibex. This is a smaller tire. It's not the biggest one they make. It's not one of the fatties because I wanted to keep the weight down. It's an 8100 by 21. And that's the great thing about electric motion too. It comes with a 21 and an 18 wheel right off the bat. With the electric motion, 21, 18. Just you mount whatever you want on it. The trials tires were good, but for enduro riding here in Hawaii, going down the muddy needles, the roots, the front would just wash sometimes when it gets caked. And that's the worst thing you can feel of when you're kind of going down something real slick or slick roots, off camber roots. This tire with its semi-soft compound works great at a little bit lower PSI. It just crawls over everything. That's awesome. Now, since we got the front end down, pretty much everything listed on the front end, now we're gonna move to our chassis. And if this looks a little weird to you, you are correct. It's not stock. And I repeat, this is not stock. It looks similar. I was able to re-engineer, redesign the case, the OEM case from Electric Motion. We got this case made by a local sheet metal guy, and we also had our friend Grant machine us a similar piece for the mounting, which is actually identical, so it fits right in there. But this is not the original piece. This is a 50 amp hour E-Pure Race style battery. Contrary to the OEM one, which is 30 amp hours, I get the same amount of battery as I would on a stock E-Scape with this pack, but in a smaller, more compact, lower to the center of gravity weight placement. And if I need to for the race, I can swap it out very quickly by just removing the 3 bolts here and then taking the whole pack out and replacing it with my other one. Now, I'm not going to get into how I built this battery. There's so many videos out there on how to build batteries, and for my own personal safety and peace of mind, I would not want to give anybody recommendations on how to build the battery. There's so many videos out there. I've spent over a year trying to learn how to build batteries before I even started, but so far it's so good. It's packed with Molicel 21700 42P batteries, and that's how I can get the amp hour out of each. That's how I can get the amp hour out of the same size pack, using bigger cells. and putting more cells in there. Now there is a BMS in there, of course, for the charging aspect of it, and that is always for safety. Number one, safety when you're building batteries. So like I said, not factory. This is my own design. This is my own choice to do this, and I won't be giving any tips on how to do this. If you want to do this, you can kind of do it yourself, or you know, maybe have a professional build one for you. But I do recommend it. It's actually very, very nice having the range. Okay. Now we look down here. This is something that you're kind of familiar with, and I've been ranting and raving about it in the past videos. This is the SSX Skid Plate. Now this is a plastic composite that we mounted to our frame, and it mounts right up here. It mounts straight to the back. It's a little hard to see where it mounts, but it mounts straight in the back where the frame lines up. And this has been a game changer for me. As you know, Hawaii has all those rocks and roots and all that stuff. And the aluminum bash plate, although very sturdy, has held up tremendously well. But it just, you know, it's an aluminum plate, and with our rocks, it doesn't slide, of course. It doesn't skid that good. And when it does slide over, it kind of just, you know, rakes right over. So it's not that comfortable. Now with this SSX skid plate, as you can see, it not only covers the bottom of the skid plate, but it also takes up this gap here to the frame that actually makes it a lot better when you're riding through like sticks and rocks and stuff. It won't catch, like you won't catch a root in here. Now you can't help the peg, you know, the peg is still hanging out there, but if anything comes, it will just get deflected and it won't lock up. It's been a lot of times where I've been stopped because I know something catches here and it just basically throws me off. And as you can see here, for our frame, we just use it to protect our frame and the paint and everything else that comes with, you know, riding in general. Aside from just one side note, before we get out of the SSX skid plate, now this is a link guard too. So for enduro riding, if you're running over the rocks, you can protect your linkage as well. This is invaluable. Like, this is so important when you're riding enduro stuff, where you're trying to hit stuff at speed and you're trying really not to care what you're going over. You know, this protects your bike, and it's gonna stop that cringe moment when you land on some rocks. You'll know that you're protected. So this is a very, very good addition, and it's mounted to one piece with the skid plate. Now, what we added here, as you can see, are trick bits, carbon-like guards. Now these are very inexpensive. They're very good looking, but they work really well too. You just zip tie them to the frame. There's one mounting point here where the tab keeps in, and it just basically keeps, you know, the frame from getting damaged too much. All right, so moving down to our foot peg. Now this is a Raptor foot peg. This is a titanium foot peg, which is something I got off of another bike, and I wanted to try it for myself. Not something I would normally spend the money on, but these pegs have actually been really good. I mean, they're a little bit bigger width-wise and length-wise, which sometimes can help, sometimes can hurt, but ultimately it gives you good grip. And being that they are titanium, they're very, very solid. Okay, can't forget about this right here. This is one of the main things that I've been advocating for since day one. And the thing about this is it costs about 500 bucks, so it's not the cheapest mod on the bike, but it's worth its weight in gold. Now this is steel subframe, and what it does is it mounts into the same ports or the same mounting points as your plastic subframe on your electric motion Escape or ePure Race. It doesn't matter, the subframe is the same, and it doesn't replace it. Now I have, as you can see, I have the plastic still under there, and that is what's going to guard the electronics and the controller that's up there. This subframe is designed to go over it, and it mounts here with a little bit longer screws. And what it allows you to do is it allows you to put weight on the back seat, like right back here. Of course, if you go too far back, you're just sitting on the fender. But The fact that it allows you to put that weight down here more in line with the tires and stuff. Sometimes you get into a hard enduro situation where you really need to sit back and just, you know, give it some throttle and kind of roll the bike through. This will allow you to do that. It will allow you to seat bounce without fear of cracking the plastic subframe, which is actually adequate, but not for enduro riding. And with that metal subframe comes a mounting point, which you don't normally have on the bike stock. This little tab that we designed in allows you to put a hand pull. So for a hard enduro, you got some times where you really need to lift it back out of a hole. You need to lift it back up. Sometimes you have to go ahead and manhandle the bike. You know, sometimes finesse doesn't get you everywhere you need to go. And with that, we put a nylon strap here. We just made our own hand pull. Again, I like this rubberized heat shrink. I put some on it. Keeps its shape and allows me to really get a good grip without digging into my hands when I need to lift the back tire up out of a hole. And I'm probably going to be using this a lot come the next race for the Enduro Fest. Going back down here, we have our shock. This is a shock upgrade. I actually stole this from E-Pure Race. This is the 3-way Olay shock, and it gives me a little bit more adjustment. And I did also put a heavier duty spring in there. Now this is a spring from Jitsi that we got, and this is rated to about up to 220. So it's a little bit thicker gauge spring, a little bit heavier. It's actually felt pretty good. I have to mess around with the adjustments. I still have this loose. I'm still messing with the compression a little bit, but this has helped quite a bit make the bike a little bit more stable. I don't bottom out as easy. I just need to compensate with the rebound to slow it so that it doesn't bounce back nearly as fast. Again, trick bits, swing arm guards. Now again, plastic, very cheap, very economical, well made, looks good. It's all you need. This, if you're looking and you don't see it for electric motion per se, you can actually get a Sherco style. Now, electric motion and Sherco have shared the same swing arm design. So anything for the swing arm and the drivetrain in this area that you'd find for a Sherco will fit the EM, just so you know. I did change this chain. I did need to make it longer because we went to a S3 428, but we went to a 59 tooth sprocket. Now the reason I went with a 59 tooth is because to compensate for the weight of the forks, I felt like the 57 was a little bit lacking. And even in my other video where I went to a 55, that was just a bad move. Like I couldn't make the hill climbs. I was struggling. The bike would have a lot of top end speed and it was really, really good in the single track on the flat stuff. But when it came to the technical stuff and the big hill climbs or just the bigger stuff where I didn't get that run up I needed, the 55 was crap. So I thought, let me just try go too higher or too bigger than stock, and I ended up with a 59. This looks great, feels great. To me, the bike, it tops out way faster on the flat stuff, on the high end, but in Hawaii, in our trails are mostly tight, so we kind of need that snap to get in and out of stuff, whereas, you know, we're not blasting on a dirt road for miles and miles and miles. As this is my this is actually a little preview to another video, but this is my third rendition, or actually my second rendition of the mud flap mod. Now, if you've seen the other video, I had a piece going across and then that was mounted to that, but there was a gap on top and it was holding mud in there. It looked messy. It didn't look very good. And it didn't work very good because the mud flap that I had was rubber. So it kind of bent in when the mud packed it. It still would get into this pocket. So now I've actually went over to a UFO branded YZ 250 guard, and this one is flexible but a lot harder in the plastic compound, and because it's harder, I was able to mold it with a heat gun and just really mount it in to my subframe, just a plastic subframe. I just screwed it right in there. Now I made sure that these screws are not touching any of the electrical. It's fine, but this should give me more space so that I can get down in there so the mud can go through, but it's rigid enough so that any of the mud that does pack in there won't push and end up filling that pocket anyway. The reason why we want to keep the mud out of here is so that we can make our suspension work. Sometimes the mud gets so packed in here with the pine needles that the suspension just won't work. So we'll see if this works or not. That's yet to be tested. Now, obviously, you're looking at not a trials tire. This is a IX09W Gekota 110-118, and it's been awesome. This tire is actually the gummiest, one of the gummiest compounds out there, and also one of the softest carcasses out there as well. And the reason I went with this tire as opposed to a JX8 or any other tire out there is, number one, the light and thin carcass. So with electric, you're always kind of battling against overall weight. And this tire, out of a lot of the enduro gummy tires, was the lightest, and it's soft compound, which I like, similar to a trials tire. And because it's thin compound, I can run low pressure and it will still kind of like conform and grip similar to a trials tire, but with a little bit more traction going downhill in the mud, in the roots. The trials tire works great in the rocks. I mean, it's amazing in the rocks, but a lot of times when you hit the mud and stuff, you know, this space here really helps when you're going downhill controlled, in a controlled fashion. So this helps. If you're wondering why my 23 has a white hub, it's because this is from a 2020 E-Scape. Now, don't you think this is an E-Scape? Well, it was an E-Scape, and then we made it into our hybrid. But this wheel is not a tubeless wheel. This is not a solid trials wheel. This is a regular tubed wheel. And because we're running our Gekota enduro tire, the bead on this tire is not fat enough to stay on the trials, the wheel, the solid trials wheel, because the trials tire has a really fat bead that really locks itself in. So that being said, this is our 18 with tubeless system in there. Now, one more question is, why did we go to the bigger one and why did we need a chain? Now, because I went with the bigger sprocket and because I was going to replace the chain anyway, what we ended up doing was pushing our wheel shaft all the way back as far as we can go. We maxed out our adjustments here. And with the chain adjustment that we got, we had to add a half link, but this setup allows us to have the wheel all the way back, which is what we want for more space for the mud, and it also gives us a decent amount of chain tension here, which is ultimately a good thing too. You can run it with low chain tension. If this is touching here, I mean, I've seen it done, but it's definitely not preferable. All right. And to address one of the biggest questions of all, like, how is this an E-Scape R when you're running an E-Pure battery? Now, this is, like what I said before, this is a hybrid bike, you know? Basically what I've done is, because I want to run the quick swappable E-Pure pack, but I still do want a seat for my trail riding, I've actually bought the seat kit and I've mounted the seat kit here. So up here is all hollow. There's nothing up here. And another benefit of using this style pack in, say, a race or something, or just riding in general, is that the weight centered is a little bit lower. With the E-Scape, of course, you know, the battery comes up here and the battery comes all the way over here. That's that much more weight on top of the bike, making it a little bit less, stable. This way, it acts more like an E-Pure as far as the rideability purposes, keeping the weight center gravity low. And that just helps overall performance and allows me, again, the main reason, to swap the battery in and out very, very quickly. Now, that's something I chose to do. If you had an E-Scape battery, that you can actually undo the seat, pull it out, change it. but then again, you have all those connections to the controllers. With this, I have a regular plug like my E-Pure, and that gets me going in and out just like that. Really quick, really efficient, lower weight. To me, overall, better riding. And I actually stole this idea from Electric Motion Factory when they set up one of their bikes for the FIM E-Enduro before they went to the X. I saw that they did this setup with this battery, and I thought it was a great idea. So I adopted it, and this is how we end up with our hybrid bike today. Right on, guys. Thank you once again for checking out the video. Now, please, if you like what you see, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you can get more updates on when we drop our videos. And we'll be doing a little bit more videos on Electric Motion, of course, always. We love this bike so much, and that's why we put all our efforts into it. And of course, some other brands as well coming soon. So thank you very much. Take care, and until next time, ride with aloha.